What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Madden Drops. We're going to avoid the daily. How are the mics doing? Chat, how are the mics doing? It's been a little while. We came in, I think, around 9:45, clear the cobwebs from the studio. I think the last time we were in here, we did a stream last week, but we also did a podcast. Some information about the podcast will be coming out down the road. It's an EA community cast that we do with all the community managers here at EA, where we talk a little bit about kind of our functions, our franchises. But we have the origin story from Man of the People, Z Farles. He is back from traveling the globe, the world. I don't know if vacation was in there, kind of slotted in there or not, but we're going to talk about the origin.
Always working.
He's always working. He's actually, believe it or not, I think there was a couple days you were taking vacation and you did respond to things. But guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This particular episode of Madden Daily Drops, we're going to go ahead and focus on a lot of the feedback that you guys gave us from the Madden 20 closed beta. So we're going to walk through some of that stuff. We have Swami here, we have Clint here, we have Greg here, people that you may have seen in previous episodes of live streams, or you may have seen them when we were kind of doing the reveals of everything. We're going to take a very slow pace at kind of talking about this stuff because this information is really important to you guys. It's really important to us, so we want to get that information out there. One thing I want to highlight as well is that we also have a Gridiron Notes timeout. We have Tech Guy. Okay.
Just coming in here to.
Is it too loud? Is it rasping?
Scraping against your
Is
shirt.
it scraping? Right? Sorry, guys. You want to zip this up a little bit? It looks like I didn't even get dressed this morning.
I want to touch your shirt.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, I got it now. I got it. I'm a little rusty. What can I say?
Definitely rub it against your neck.
Yeah. Definitely do that.
All right, sorry. Apologies, guys. A little rusty right there. I'll try not to move too much. It gets a little bit awkward. What was I saying? It's your birthday. It's your birthday. Guys, actually, I will talk about Gridiron Notes in a second, but it is Swami's real birthday today. We're always teasing and joking about birthdays. So happy birthday to you, sir. Thank you so much. It's great to have you in the studio. It's great to have you here. We were going to sing, but we all don't have mics, so we're going to avoid that today.
We're doing it for your benefit. That we're not all singing.
It's to protect the innocent. We were actually thinking about this morning.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Swami. Happy birthday to you. Happy 58th birthday, Swami.
There you go. Great rating there. I'm just kidding. Okay. Actually, that was the thing I was going to talk to you about. Like, we'll talk about a little about player rating stretch again before we answer these questions on franchise. But guys, Gridiron Notes. So everything that we're talking about here today, we're going to go ahead and talk about tomorrow in the Gridiron Notes. That usually comes around 3, I want to say it's 5 p.m. Eastern. Sometimes they get released a little bit early so that you guys have some type of documentation that you can reference to look at. Those right now have been sent over to our web team. They're publishing that and getting that out there. But everything we talked about here, when the stream is over, the stream will be archived. You can go back, you can listen to it. But not just that, but there will be Gridiron Notes for you guys so you can go ahead and reference all that kind of stuff. So before we talk about franchise and the feedback that we got from the beta about franchise, there's this hot topic out there in the community right now. It's called ratings. And I thought it was a good idea. Let's go ahead and talk about the rating stretch again, briefly, and kind of get that perspective. And the other thing I want to highlight too for our players out there is that, ratings are dynamic. We haven't even started the season yet. So, even though they start out at a certain rating, over time and over the season, those ratings are going to get updated, with your support and Dustin's support to kind of make that happen. Not saying last names protect the innocent. I don't want anyone doing anything like that crazy. But talk to me a little about player rating stretch and kind of what was done this year from that regard.
So the player rating stretch, we raised the ceiling on our attributes that we were using, and we lowered the floor, and we went across every single attribute from every single player for each position.
Okay.
And we reevaluated everybody out, and we separated them to really separate the elite from the very good from the good from the average to the backups, etc., to really make each tier of players stand out from one another.
Got it.
And then that also impacted the overall formulas on top of that. So I think the best example we used is last year, the highest pass block for a right tackle was 88. This year it is 95. So we went 7 up on the right tackle and pass block. We also went low on the low end to really help separate guys out because there was a lot of clumping together. And we wanted to really make each player feel different based on what their ratings represent and really separate that out.
Got it. Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's going to be up to the players when they're out there playing the game to kind of let us know and give us that feedback on how things feel. From the Madden 20, closed beta, we got a lot of great feedback. And the thing that we saw in the studio from a lot of our feedback events where we had people from the community come through was the game felt good. It felt like if the players felt authentic, the game felt good. But there is still that outstanding question of like, how is this going to feel when I start playing Madden Ultimate Team? And I'll talk a little bit about that near the end of the stream about what we got coming down the pipe to kind of give you guys some context on everything Madden Ultimate Team. I know there wasn't a lot shared outside of missions earlier on a lot of live streams. A lot of that's because we're saving that information for a live stream we're having on Monday evening. So I'll talk about that near the tail end of this live stream. So why don't we do this? There were a lot of questions from the community. We went through the user voice forum. User voice is actually a pretty amazing tool. What it allows our players to do, for those people that were not able to participate in the Madden 20 closed beta, we had a tool where our community members could go in. They can go ahead and put a comment of what they were seeing from their experience from playing the Madden 20 closed beta. And what the community was able to do, they were able to rally around that. They were able to vote up those things that they were seeing that they had some concerns about. But what was cool is people were providing kind of their comments as well. They provided some context because we saw some things where we'll talk a little bit about with Greg when he's here about the Pro Bowl, where a player's experience going to the game for the first time really kind of skewed how things felt for the rest of the game. But once they kind of started playing the game a little more, after 72 hours, they had a very different opinion. So it was great getting that feedback and really looking at it and dissecting all that kind of stuff. But one of the questions that we got through the forum, Swami, was around contract structures. And I have a list here. So if you guys see me looking down, I'm just looking at kind of my iPad Pro. The
Fancy,
good, the nice one. Shout out to Mama Craylo for the hookup. All right, so contract structures. So people were saying, please update the contract structures in the game. Actually, shout out to Funky Donkeys. He was the user that posted this. I want to give them attribution for kind of starting the thread.
Yep.
But he's like, please update the contract structures in the game. In the franchise deep dive, you claim to put work into making contracts line up with the real NFL, but in reality, there's kind of some things missing, like fifth-year options for first-round picks, guaranteed money restructuring, player team options for certain years in the deals. Are we going to do anything in regards to that? So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that we are representing guaranteed money right now is through signing bonus. It's not exactly a one-to-one because there's guaranteed salary versus signing bonus, which is always guaranteed as well for players. But that's kind of the way that we're supplementing it right now in a year that we didn't have the chance to add additional resources on the franchise side to improve that area. Regarding fifth-year options for first-round picks, it is confirmed that it will be a scenario that we are going to be releasing in a future title update this year. So that is something very big, getting that fifth-year option for first-round rookies. And the other things, the guaranteed money structures and various options, they're things that we definitely want and we're going to look into in the future as well.
Very cool. And I think that's one of the things, too, let you guys know. One thing I want to highlight, too, is that when we say future title update, when we get closer to those title updates, we're going to go ahead and have, we've been talking about this, like maybe we'll have MDD happen a little bit earlier, in the week. We'll kind of bring this stuff before it actually hits public so we can talk through these things and show you guys some things if we have footage available. But we want to start kind of letting you guys know, hey, we heard this feedback. It is kind of confirmed that it's going to be a future title update. We never really put a definitive date on that, and the part of that reason is because even though our teams go ahead and have things done and they submit it to first party, there are things that can happen throughout that process that may delay things. And one of the things that we'll do in a future Gridiron Notes, and not just that, but also a MDD live stream, is maybe we'll sit down with Clint, maybe we can go ahead and get a development director in here and talk through that process of how kind of bugs kind of become fixes, kind of like the bill becomes a law. You guys seen that, in school. It's one of those things that we really want to educate the community on this year so you have a better understanding. A lot of times we would love to fix things the next day, but our game is not like in beta. There is a process in which we have to go ahead and address things and move on with that. So next up, we got a question from rmoons1216, and he was talking about when simulating games, QBs do not record rushing stats. So
yes.
What are we doing in that space?
We're looking into it. It really ties into our Super Sim engine. It's a very large and complex system, but we are looking into it because it is an area that we know is a big deal, especially for guys like Lamar Jackson, like Marcus Mariota, et cetera, Deshaun Watson. to have these types of rushing stats because it's a huge part of their game. So we already are working on things to address it in standard gameplay. We're also looking into it in the Super Sim engine as well.
Great stuff. Awesome. So we have Harvest Moo 561. He talked about when he played the Madden 20 closed beta that it felt like there was a lack of depth in franchise and just in general. Can you talk a little bit about that and what we're doing to kind of add more depth in that space?
Well, we're adding a lot of scenarios to the game for launch, and we're going to be adding continuous development scenarios throughout the entire course of the year. And I think that's really an area that we can expand upon, that type of living world and having different people approach you, really make it feel like you're part of a team, that different members of your organization are interacting with you, and all the different things that come with it. Could be players, could be coaches, etc., to really help enhance that experience and add more diversity to the content that we had in the beta, because it was a small snippet of what is to come.
For sure. Awesome. Let me go ahead and pull up. I have some more questions that are actually part of the Gridiron notes. We're going to go ahead and answer some of those on stream here right now. Let me go ahead and tab over, get into this. So we got a question, and this is a little bit of a teaser for the next segment where Greg's going to kind of come on and talk a little bit about it. But will Superstar X Factor Vision and Database be available in franchise mode?
Yes, absolutely. We have it in a variety of places in franchise mode, including on the team select screen as you go into a game. It's one of my favorite features this year because you really can see everybody who is going to be impactful in a game from both teams right there with the abilities labeled right in front of you. It's a great tool to have. It separates it out between the X Factors and the Superstars,
cool.
And it really lays out everything for both teams, and you can sort and take in a bunch of different directions.
Cool. So yeah, so Superstar Vision and Database, you heard it here first from Swami. Kind of dropped a little bit of a teaser. We're going to talk with Greg. We're going to show you some screenshots of some things and talk about the philosophy design behind why this kind of needed to come to the game. And just stuff that we'll be monitoring. So next up, can you assign X Factor abilities to your creative player and franchise?
Absolutely. So we have different paths for that, especially through Face of the Franchise, where in Face of the Franchise you can equip your abilities at any given point. However many slots that you have unlocked, you can mix and match, and you can really have that type of freedom. And we want to make that my player experience really stand out and let you have that customization and freedom relative to the standard franchise mode, where whatever they earn is what they will have, but it's based on archetype and other factors involved.
Okay, cool. Do we have this is the next one we have a screenshot, right?
Actually, it would have been for that one, I believe.
Tech guy.
Stop reading the chat.
New year, same problems.
One job.
You know what though? Tech guy, audio guy, is going on vacation end of week. So he has senioritis. A lot of you guys know how that is. You know, high schoolers out there. College, I don't know college. Yeah, I've been in college in a long time. Yeah, it's been a long time, very, very long time. Yeah, so right here in this image, what we were saying against Swami, again, Superstar X Factor, can you assign the Superstar X Factor ability to your creative player and franchise? We got this screenshot right here. I think we were taking a backward shot of Z Farles when he was wearing his wig in the office on this one, but it's okay. It's all right. So I'm assuming right here you're picking specifically, you know, archetype, then...
Yeah, you're explaining what type of player you are in this type of situation, and then that kind of sets the groundwork for what type of abilities you'll have, what your archetype is, and then you can expand from there as you unlock more.
Cool. Awesome. Great stuff. All right, next up is in Connected Franchise, is Superstar X Factor something you can earn, or do you have to be drafted with it?
Both, actually.
Okay.
So you can earn the abilities through performance, through awards, different things of that nature. We removed the ability to lose dev trait this year, so you'll have guys going up. It's not exactly easy to get the new dev traits, which is why we felt comfortable not having the regression down in dev trait, and we don't think it's going to oversaturate the league. But you will also be able to draft players with Superstar or Superstar X Factor abilities. We added a little bit of Fog of War to the abilities, or to the dev traits in the draft. So if you have Star, Superstar, or Superstar X Factor, you will have a hidden development trait that you have to play a certain number of snaps with that rookie to then unlock what their dev trait is.
Okay.
So you know that you have something that's above normal dev trait, and then you find out how special these guys truly are after you really experience them as a player.
Okay, good stuff. So that's kind of like for our franchise segment. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add at this time. or mention to the chat. I mean, you're seeing a lot of stuff out there from the community. They're kind of sending you questions, but this is your moment.
Yeah.
This is your moment to go ahead and lay it all out there before you have to take off and we bring on Greg. But yeah, anything else you're seeing?
Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about the rating stretch relative to franchise.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
So first off, the one thing that you should really look at is the rank at the position. So the way that we have our contract system set up and the way that teams are built is with all the ratings lower, rookies might be below established veterans. But the lower the overall and the younger the player, the faster they will progress. So in theory, if they are focus trained, which they will be because they are newly drafted players, they're going to rise up above low-level veterans who they will then surpass and get the playing time on. And for the contracts, it's based on the overall of the player's contract right then.
Okay.
So if you have someone who's an 82 overall who gets, let's say Carson Wentz being the tied for the 12th best quarterback and he has a $180 million contract, that number will help influence other 82 overall quarterbacks in the future.
Wow.
So you take the entire contract structure, it's the contract relative to the overall, and that really helps shape the contract structures across the board. So even though everything's scaled down, we also are taking that into account with our progression, our regression, and with our contract system.
That's great stuff, man. Good stuff. Anything else you want to share before you take off?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Happy birthday.
Happy
kids.
birthday to Swami again. So guys in the chat, just say happy birthday to Swami. We're going to go ahead and bring on Greg. He's one of our senior designers here in the studio. We're going to talk a little bit about Superstar X Factor Vision and the database, something that we really saw during the Madden 20 closed feedback session. So we're going to go ahead and cut to a graphic real quick here. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. Propane79, so I don't forget. Thanks so much. Appreciate the love earlier in the chat. And not just that, but guys, we want to go ahead and please the Madden fans out there. I saw a comment, Swami, take your shirt off. We want this show to be on air for Madden 20, so that's one request we could not make today. So we got Greg here. Greg, great to have you back on the stream.
Happy
So
birthday, Greg.
yeah, okay. Now we're back to the shtick of it's everybody's birthday. All right, good stuff. So how have things been, man? I mean, we're next week we launch Madden, with EA Access on the 25th. So how you doing?
I'm doing good. I mean, I'm excited. The beta feedback's been great. I'm glad that we're here to talk about some of the feedback that we received from all the users out there, and we're just trying to continue to show you guys that we care, we listen, and we're trying to help make Madden a better experience for everybody.
Cool. Well, it's awesome. I really do appreciate you, Clint, just the entire team continuing to partner with us to kind of get this information out there. One of the things last year, is we had this awesome platform with Twitch to go ahead and talk to you guys, and Z Farrell's man of the people, constantly making sure that we're doing this every single day. Then took off, and then we took it over, and we're just not as dedicated as him. So he is a true man of the people, just to give him a shout out. But with that, we have been really talking about how do we go into Madden 20 and really bring the devs on board so you can hear it from them. A lot of times what Gibbs, Farrells, and I do, we work on the community team. We take this information, we kind of process it, we get it to the devs, they look at that information, and then they try to figure out the best way to address it, whether it's in gridiron notes, whether it's in title updates, all that kind of great stuff. So today we're here and we're talking about kind of the Madden 20 close feedback around gameplay. And one of the things that I noticed during a lot of feedback was you got these superstar X factors in game now. You got these superstar abilities. It's really confusing because you get in there and you don't exactly know what's going on. There's just all this stuff. You don't know how to get them in the zone. You don't know how to get them out of the zone. People are pausing the game. When they're pausing the game, it takes you out of your flow. Our whole idea is like fast to fun, get people engaged, but it's just when you don't have the information, it's a very slow and aggravating process. What did you guys do to address that?
Well, Swami hinted on it earlier about the X Factor database. So The X Factor database is kind of our passive way for you to read about the abilities and the conditions of how to get people in and out of in the zone. And so that's kind of like when you're on your own, you boot up the game for the first time. It's on the main tile. It's in Team Select. We reference it in our loading screens. You can go into the pause menus and see it. It's basically just a giant database of everybody that's in the game that at ship, and then as players come in and out of the X Factor list, will enter the database and come out of the database based on whether you're in franchise or play now or whatnot
awesome.
like that. And then during game, which is we wanted to try to find a more active place to do that, and that's where we came up with the concept of X Factor Vision, which we have up on the screen now. And so the concept here is we've taken Coach Cam on right trigger, and we've swapped out the coach wheel with an X Factor Vision wheel, for lack of a better word. And what you can do with the right stick is you can scroll between the two teams on offense and defense, and we'll highlight the different players as you move across. So if you only have one X Factor or Superstar on your team, there'll only be one up there, but the feature will support up to 11. So like when we had the Pro Bowl where we had a bazillion icons and everybody's really confused and unsure of what each person does, we can support a max out thing. But for balance and whatnot, we're trying to keep it, around 3 players per side of the ball, just to make those guys feel really impactful and not water down the point of this feature.
Okay. So do you want to talk a little bit about, you mentioned something about right trigger. Can we talk a little bit about some of the things that are, because in order to kind of support this feature, there was a lot of telemetry I heard. There was a lot of information that was looked into to kind of figure out how to best implement this. So when you guys are implementing new features, it's not like someone has a wild idea and you just go do it,
Yep.
right? You have to really think that through because anything that you do impacts the player experience.
Yep.
Can you walk me through kind of based off what you guys saw out there and then the approach to that? And then also there's always that post-launch approach, which something we'll be monitoring heavily to kind of see how our players react.
Yeah, so anytime you make a change in the controller, we definitely look into how long has it been in the game, how used to it are our players, and so we try to not disrupt your kind of year-to-year Madden experience on the controller. But in this instance, with the X Factor Vision, we really needed to hone this in because this is how we're going to present Madden going forward, right? Ratings was always a big deal, but now it's these superstar X Factors are kind of the new wave of how we're going to differentiate our players. And so putting that on a primary button like the right trigger or R2 on PlayStation is where you're naturally going to go anyway, and we want you to be able to find that information quickly instead of trying to dig around on the controller and figure out where to go. So because of that, we've taken the classic coach camera that everybody's used to, that you pull the right side trigger up, the camera zooms out, you see all your play art, you get your coach wheel where you had your matchup stick and your fatigues and all that stuff. So we shifted that over to left trigger. And in doing that, we now have support for basically our light and lapsed users, the people that were really trying to grow our business, and we really want to make our game more fun and appealing and younger. And so we've put the vision on the right trigger while moving a more hardcore feature like the coach wheel, which is the matchup stick and all that, to left trigger. So you're still getting the same kind of haptic feedback where you're used to pulling a trigger, the camera zooms out, you get your additional UI feedback, you see the play art. Both work exactly the same, except the difference is the right stick portion of that. So with Vision, the right stick shows you your X Factors and Superstar athletes. On the left toggle, you're going to bring up the classic coach wheel where you can do your matchup sticks and whatnot. And so in doing that, because we all know we have plenty of pre-play adjustments that we allow our users to do, we tried to figure out a way to make sure that we're maintaining kind of consistency in that controller. And so our thought was, if we can get everything that you're used to doing on the shoulder buttons, LB, L1, and RB, R2, and bringing those over to the D-pad, like you can see on the screen here, one, it stops the redundancy we had. So we had redundancy where defensive line and the linebackers were on the shoulder buttons as well as being on the D-pad. So to free up our shoulder button and for any new things that we have in the future, we moved the shoulder buttons to the D-pad to keep it on one hand motion. And then bringing the defensive keys, we brought that up from the trigger to the shoulder button. So we tried to do as minimal of a change as we could to the controller layout while still trying to keep the your brain consistent on what hand's doing the input to get you into those various pre-play adjustments. Now we know this is going to be a definite change, right? Everybody's used to the shoulder buttons and whatnot, but this is for the greater good of everyone because we really need to pay off the X Factor vision feature. This is how you're going to be able to tell what your opponents have on the field, especially when you're playing games like MUT games where people can put whatever ability they want on a guy with training points. So it's very wide open on
so
what
my
you can
DeAndre
do.
Hopkins is not going to be the way that you configured your DeAndre Hopkins.
Correct.
So if you don't have a way to identify that in game, it's going to create a lot of problems. And I heard that this was one of like the big things that came up was in trying to figure this stuff out. When you get into modes like Madden Ultimate Team, there is going to be people are going to be very confused,
right?
Kind of thing. So I definitely there's going to be a learning curve, but it's something that I know we're monitoring. But continue on.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just going to take practice, right? Like any new feature we add to the game, it's going to take some reps on the sticks to get used to it. But we feel that this is the least intrusive way that we could have reconfigured the controller for both offense and defense to enable one to sell our big feature that we're putting in this year and how we feel is going to completely change how you play Madden and interact with Madden in the future, as well as making sure that we're still listening to our hardcore cohort that really does a lot of pre-play adjustments, and that's where they get their freedom. They're trying to I guess like hone that experience to a less scattered controller input.
Got it. Okay. Well, cool. Well, thanks for that feedback. I think it's really helpful to kind of let our players know kind of what's going on in this space. It sounds like we're trying to address multiple needs. The first thing you guys kind of heard here is that there were a lot of questions about what are these superstar X Factor abilities, what are these superstar abilities in game. When you do not have this information readily available, it can kind of really impact your player experience. But then it's also trying to figure out how do we go ahead and show that in game while you're playing. But Madden Ultimate Team, which we'll talk about more on Monday, Jake Stein will be here and we'll walk through a lot of things there. My DeAndre Hopkins is not going to be like yours. Everyone's going to configure it differently. So if you were to put certain kind of abilities on that particular player, you need to know how to stop them, I think, right, at the end of the day. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about was I know when I started playing, when I first started playing the game and it was downloading, you get this, you get this Pro Bowl experience, you get all these amazing superstars, but I was super overwhelmed because everyone was freaking OP.
Yeah.
And not just that, but it's like I always felt like I couldn't throw the ball. I always felt like I was getting sacked. And it takes some time to adjust. And I know a lot of that feedback when we looked at it from the Madden 20 feedback, and Clint will talk a little more about pass rush and throwing and all that kind of stuff, is when you're new to a whole new system and you get into that system, there's that learning curve. Mm-hmm. And I think at the end of the day, we want to make it enjoyable, but we also want to show those new type of features early on. So what do we do specifically to the Pro Bowl so it didn't have that overpowering experience?
Yeah, so I mean, we heard the community feedback, we heard our internal testing feedback that Pro Bowl was just completely overwhelming. Mm-hmm. Every guy is maxed out with all kinds of abilities. You can't figure out one icon from the other. So what we did is we aligned our exhibition Pro Bowl experience with the rest of the game and how we're going to treat the amount of X factors that show up on the screen. So what we've done is when you go in, you play Pro Bowl in the first install or in Play Now, for lack of a better word, we've reduced the amount of active abilities. So on offense, the quarterbacks will have their abilities, so you can kind of sub them in and out, along with the running back at the top of your depth chart and wide receiver one. Mm-hmm. So that way you have a quarterback, a running back, and a wide receiver X Factor superstar that you can play with and really just kind of get used to the idea of the fact that we have these new abilities that are game changing and make these stars feel like stars while still utilizing the rating spread that Swami talked about to really pay off the fact that the Pro Bowl is the creme de la creme. It's all the kick-ass guys. Yeah. Like they're all there.
Just kidding.
And then on defense, we've reduced that as well. So there's 3 key players on the defense that'll have their active abilities. It should be, I think it's the right end, the I'm trying to think, left outside linebacker, and I believe free safety. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but there's 3 basically at each level of defense that we've tagged based on who the shipping Pro Bowl roster is, to try to make that impactful. And one, mainly to reduce the amount of people that have all of the crazy pass rush abilities and all of your coverage people that are just lights out, taking everything away from you. So we really wanted to make that Pro Bowl experience fun and unique, because it is based out of Orlando, or where we're at, and all the new prez that we've done there. But also to distill it down so that way you can still have a meaningful Pro Bowl experience, but not be completely overwhelmed by like a maxed out team on both sides.
Well, it's good feedback, and I appreciate you guys listening to it. I know as I kind of dug through the comments, one of the things I saw were, it's like pass rush, very OP. And then as you read through the comments, one thing that we saw a trend was players were saying, once I started getting in play now and I started getting out of the Pro Bowl experience, it was easier for me to adjust. So I think that when we don't look at just the title as it happens at the user voice level, where people are reporting things. When you dig through the comments, people start, and I think that's the beautiful thing about community, is people can start talking to each other about their experiences, and we kind of come to a consensus looking at that information, which community feedback is literally like one of the major, I call it major pillars, and I call it major because it's part of my job, but it's one of the major pillars in when you're working on meaningful design and you're working on fixing things, is that you have to look at that, but you also have to look at telemetry, you have to look at data that we're seeing as well. You also have to look at like a lot of other stuff that's involved, like length of time to go ahead and make a new feature improvement and do things, because you could say, we want to do it like this, but that's going to take 6 months of development, and possibly it could even potentially, be counterintuitive to something else that we're doing that might be way down the road. Right?
Yeah, it could be in conflict with a future idea,
for sure.
plan. Yep.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and talk about presentation improvements. We'll go ahead and then bring on Clint. I don't know how Clint felt when the decision was made about halfback, and quarterback and wide receiver as the only option in the Super Bowl you can control, because he's, he used to be a lineman. Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
So Clint can kind of voice how he felt that no one can control, offensive line. Dad joke, really bad. Let's move on to presentation improvements. So presentation improvements, some players have been asking for more information about presentation aspects of Madden 20. We have a list. Can you kind of walk through that list with us as some of the things that we're going to see?
Yeah, so we definitely try to pay off our Superstar X Factors. That was our main feature for our in-game team. And so in the past, I've been heavily involved with presentation, so being able to help pay off those guys in a cool, meaningful way with some of the things we'll talk about here. So everybody knows we have our cool pregame runouts and whatnot, so we tried to look at some of our key players that didn't have coverage in that. So we went and got a new Tom Brady run out, we got a new Russell Wilson run out. So to try to fulfill more of the guys that you'll see coming out, through the fireworks and all that stuff. We also, to harken back to your fast to fun concept, that's been a new mantra in the game this year. I'm sure you guys that play the beta noticed that we don't linger a lot anymore once the whistle blows. Mainly just so that we can keep you guys playing, keep you on the sticks longer, try not to take your time away from playing the game, and really bring you like pres moments when they really matter, versus bringing it to you from a pure broadcast standpoint.
For sure, yeah.
So in doing that, we reduced quarter breaks and timeouts and 2-minute warning down to basically just a quick pause, beauty shot, and we've updated our 3D wipe tech that we introduced last year to basically show you which one you're going into. So it's not like startling when you see like an EA Sports wipe. Now it's like, hey, it's a timeout. Oh, okay, good. It's a quarter in. So it just keeps the game flowing. Brandon and Charles keep you guys rolling through your match, and that way you're not having to just sit and watch these overly broadcast-oriented flows, and just keep you in the game. As well, we always have our NIS, our non-interactive scenes that we play on the sidelines, whatnot. We really wanted to try to pay off the different players and kind of their personalities. So like OBJ's tantrums, we have some cool tantrum NIS in there based on once certain criteria is hit during your game, you'll see OBJ chuck his helmet at the bench and whatnot. We have things like like Richard Sherman's a big motivator, so we try to put in scenes where we can pay off those guys, amping the team up, getting them fired up for this fourth quarter stand to win this game. Basically, just anything we can do to try to pay off more of the emotion of the game.
Okay.
Because we know that, like, when we're playing on the couch together, we're going back and forth on the score, we're jabbing and jawing, but like we want the game to present that as well. We don't want that to be your story. We want the game to tell you that story.
Yeah, so like every time when Gibbs in the office, I go like this, and he just walks by.
Yeah.
And, yeah. I think we saw. Did we see one of those? So the NIS is pretty much what we saw like on Twitter, which there was a. I think Tom Brady said something, and I think we responded back.
The no high five.
Yeah, so that's like an NIS moment, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
very
we
cool.
have that for
I thought
Tom
it was really
Brady.
cool. So for a lot of people out there that were asking, they're like, "Is this in the game? Is this like really in the game?" It actually is in the game, so that's really cool.
Yep, and there's an Easter egg around the Tom Brady no high five if you can find it.
Okay, all right. What else? So on the QB side of things, what do we do there?
Yeah, so because of Face of the Franchise, you're going to be controlling the quarterback. And last year we added our user celebration feature where you could celebrate a touchdown or post sack. So to make it so that, typically you're not the scorer when you're a quarterback, you're throwing the ball into the end zone for somebody else to score and do their dance. So we wanted to make sure that you still felt involved. Mm-hmm. And so if you throw a passing touchdown inside of Face of the Franchise mode as your player quarterback, you do get the option to celebrate. To pay off that moment. So you'll have the same options, or not the same options, but the same user interface that you have for the user celebration on the right stick, flipping it in one of the 4 directions. It'll play a set of animations that you can go through with your guy. And also, if you end up player locking on your dude inside of just normal franchise or in mud or online or play now, that behavior is still there too. So if you throw a passing touchdown when you're player locked to a character, you can celebrate.
That's awesome. I also saw we have some so I see Stadium, Augmented UI, Logic for post-play presentation. You want to run through some of those real quick?
Yeah, so quickly, we always go out and we're always trying to get the most authentic stadium experience we can. So we go out to the various venues and we scan them with lasers and all kinds of cool technology that keeps improving every year. And that really helps us get a jump start on the stadium. Because stadium development, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah,
They're
sure.
Massive venues. You got to make sure all the benches are set up, the tunnels are the right height so the players' heads don't run through them as they go by. So it's really cool that we're continuing our cycle of trying to get through the entire NFL and just creating that most authentic stadium experience that we can. And with that, comes with all the beauty cameras and things that our awesome animators do to try to sell like the really cool venue spots that you as a fan when you go to that stadium to watch your favorite team. You this gate, it looks like this, and we fly through it. The augmented UI, so we've had that in the game for a bit. It's our where the banners come off the players. So we added because of the X Factor ability to get in the zone, we needed a way to pay that off. So that's in there now. So when a character gets in the zone at the end of a play, we'll cut to them and we'll play off that guy's in the zone. So that way everybody playing in that contest knows that, oh crap, I got to worry about this player because he's in the zone now.
For sure, yeah.
And then kind of the logic for a post-play presentation and all that kind of harkens back to the NIS and just trying to make sure that we're paying off characters in their right way, like getting as many unique and signature dances, first down motions, post-sack reactions. We really want our characters to feel like they're the stars that they're representing. And every year we continue to try to build on those buckets and make sure that those guys represent themselves as authentic. You know what I'm saying? Tough word
Yeah.
on a...
I can't even say it. I'm not going to try.
It's 10:30 in the morning. I'm done. Need some coffee.
Awesome. Well, hey, anything else you want to talk about before we bring Clint on? Anything you want to highlight that we haven't talked about yet?
No, I mean, I think the main thing is we're really looking forward to everybody getting their hands on the X Factor Vision, just kind of giving you that spot check, see where your guys are progressing. We've had, in the beta, we had the widgets that would show up to tell you how far along you are in getting your player into the zone. But there wasn't really a great way to pay off kind of all the passive, the superstar abilities that we have on the characters, and the X Factor Vision really allows you to see that.
Okay.
So you can see what Todd Gurley is going to be able to do to you outside of when he gets in the zone.
Great stuff. All right, guys. So what we're going to do next is we're going to bring Clint on and talk about gameplay, and then after that we're going to talk a little bit about kind of what's happening for the rest of the week and going into next week. Clint's just telling me to hurry it up. Gets on stage at EA Play and thinks he can boss me around. I got it. All right, we're going to cut right here. It looks pretty decent.
Oh, you're good, man.
In fact, good.
Yeah.
Awesome. Hey guys, we're back. We're here with Clint. He's one of the senior designers on the gameplay team. We're gonna go ahead. Maybe I got that right. Maybe is it a gameplay team?
We call it in-game now, but
In game.
gameplay,
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go ahead and talk through some of the gameplay things that the team addressed. Good to have you back. I didn't think you were gonna make it out today, but you hopped on a 6 a.m. flight. You came here. You chirped at me. You tweeted at me. I was like, oh, emoji. He's gonna be here.
Yeah, that tweet was basically just for you to know I would be here.
I appreciate it because I was on for a limited window. I noticed that the EA Sports _Mud account said, hey, I'm going to be on. And there was all these questions, which was great because we might be able to go through and kind of answer them.
We had some ratings work to do.
You got a lot of ratings work to do. So you were out in Atlanta doing that. Were you there to talk to Deion Jones? I heard he signed his contract. I heard, Garrett also has his I mean, they're getting paid. Julio's got to get paid.
We'll have some stuff to share on that event in the coming weeks and months. But I think these guys want to hear about gameplay.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good stuff. So that was Clint's indirect way of saying, let's move on. Okay, all right. So let's talk about gameplay. First off, let's talk about the thing that everybody wants to know about is pass rush. What happened?
Yeah, pass rush. That's a good place to start. I'm going to look right into the camera. There was no change to pass rush. We did not tune pass rush. We didn't do anything to pass rush. It's at its exact same state that it was in the beta. But there is a new mechanic that I am introducing today that deals in that space. We now have user-controlled block and release hot routes and blue routes for tight ends. So basically, anytime you have a tight end in an inline position that's either in a three-point stance or in a wing position, and he has a blue route or you hot route him to a blue route, he will now be in pass block until you hit his receiver icon button, which will then release him into his route. At whatever time you want. So you know exactly when he's going to go. The cool thing about that is, based on his awareness rating, that's how responsive he'll be to the button press. So if he's very low in awareness, he might be delayed when you hit the button, so he'll be a little late. And if he's really high awareness, he'll be really responsive. There is a max timer on there, so you can't just run all the way back to the end zone and then release your guy. So I would expect, between 3 and 5 seconds, there is a max timer he will eventually release. But if you run the play as you should, you can hit the button and tell him when you want to release. And this is important to the pass rush conversation because this is a good counterbalance to the edge rush heat. If you're having trouble with that, you want to put a tight end over there and know when he's going to get out and have a little outlet. So it's a nice little tool in your tool belt to counter the edge rush. And it's the first of 2 blocking mechanics that we will be launching this year. The second one I can't talk about today will be coming in a title update.
Okay, cool. Before you go down that path and we talk about passing animations, because players are going to want to know about that as well, there is a design philosophy when it comes to stuff. Like, again, the community gives that feedback. You and I have talked about this, about, community gives feedback, people want immediate update, but then there's also a different lens you have to look at things from. And I kind of wanted you to talk a little bit about that because I don't want our players to think that we didn't listen to that feedback. I think it's just one of those things that there is a process. It doesn't mean that we won't ever touch it again. It's just one of those things that we kind of need to monitor.
I mean, we listen to all the feedback. You guys see me on the social interwebs, looking and interacting with everyone. We try to do whatever the community seems like it wants to do. A lot of times the community itself is in disagreement, and so we have to try to sift through that. But the beta feedback was fabulous. I mean, in concert with what you and Greg were talking about getting more information about the X factors, the pass rush and the passing animations, those 3 things were the most common pieces of feedback that we got. So when you get that many people excited about the game and giving you the same feedback, then it makes it really easy to decide what you have to do. And I just want to do a quick follow-up on what you talked about with the new control schemes using defensive pre-play as it relates to X Factor vision. As Gibbs always says, if you just get 100 reps in before bed every night, you're going to have that knocked out in no time.
100?
And I say that because we know that that's going to be an issue for some of you guys who really have your muscle memory down for those pre-snap adjustments. But we are confident that you guys are good enough to relearn that and get back to the level you were in, 40 hours or less.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you on TikTok?
And the question is Clint on TikTok?
What is TikTok?
It's a social interweb.
No, I don't think so, but I can get on if you want.
Great feedback on there.
Excellent.
Good stuff. Moving on. Let's go ahead and talk about passing animations.
Another one, passing animations. No change. We didn't do anything to the passing animations, same as pass rush. What was really valuable about the feedback is initially in the beta, people were surprised and shocked at these changes, specifically passing and pass rush. But what we found out as they played more was they got overwhelmed in the Pro Bowl experience. And then as they got deeper into the game, a lot of the feedback went from maybe negative to neutral to extremely positive, especially on Twitter. I mean, almost everyone's saying, don't touch this stuff, please, you'll ruin my game for me. So that was all really valuable as well. And just kind of seeing that experience through the beta as they played deeper and deeper made it very clear that we shouldn't be making any changes in either space.
Cool. But it is
Shout out to Kia. Shout out to Joven. Shout out to Elise Shanks. You guys remind me daily. You always say, don't change pass rush. I didn't.
your daily reminder. Don't chase a pass.
There it is.
So on that note, let's talk about man coverage. So we did see some feedback on that. What do we do in the area of man coverage?
Man coverage. So even though there was some people saying don't change man coverage, we did make a few very surgical updates to man coverage. There was not any global tuning or nothing that would impact it as a whole. What we did do is tune the cut moves for wide receivers on post and corner routes, which are typically man-beating routes. We tuned those to be more effective for receivers who hold those abilities that give them special cuts on corners and posts. And then we also did some work to make man coverage defenders react more appropriately to the receiver cut immediately following a press animation,
Okay.
especially on outbreaking routes.
How about zone? What do we do in zone?
No change.
Okay. All right. There you heard it.
No change to zone.
Yeah, I see it on your notes right here. Let's talk about I saw a lot of like handoff bugs and playbook bugs in general.
Yeah.
I came in the office after the closed beta, and the first email I got that day was just, Clint, I'm not kidding you. I had to scroll. Clint had named all of these bugs that he had seen on Twitter and also on the forums of like, hey, we need to fix all these playbook bugs, all these kind of things.
Yeah.
So a huge shout out to you and your team for doing that. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a good one. So we actually kind of expected that going into the beta because we had done so much work in playbook, specifically around handoffs for RPOs. So we had redone all that tech as we talked about before. So we knew that some were broken. So we got, I think, about 90% of the ones reported in the beta feedback fixed for launch day. And then there's a few remaining ones that will be fixed in one of the early title updates shortly thereafter. But the vast majority we did get knocked out. So that should be better. There are a few that you still might run into, but just know that those are going to be fixed very quickly as soon as we can after launch.
And one thing to highlight to you guys too is that when the game goes live and you guys are starting to see issues, one thing that helps myself, the community team, also Clint, the in-game team, is if you see an issue, make sure to go ahead, if you can, you have the ability to record it. Let us know what formation it's coming out of, record the play, all this stuff. We can go back and look at it because we can try to reproduce things, but if we can actually see what you're seeing, there could be something unique happening on how you adjusted your formation or how you're doing things that could be playing an impact. So again, as part of the feedback to the community, we play the game every day and we kind of play it our way. You guys played a very different way, and you guys might come across something that we may have not seen. So again, we appreciate you guys providing that feedback. It helps us make the game better. Next thing, illegal man downfield. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? I know there was some controversy earlier with one of the clips that we had for EA Play.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to talk about that part first.
We could talk about all of it.
Yeah.
I know that one of the clips that we showed at EA Play while you were wearing that really ugly jacket that you had on.
Appreciate it.
No, I'm just kidding. Showed a lineman downfield. So we showed all of those clips on arcade at EA Play because it was the criteria to get a player into the zone on arcades easier.
For sure.
And that cut down on the time it took for us to get that gameplay shown. So we're a little bit more forgiving with that penalty on arcade because it's more of a fun experience and less about the rules and really more difficult to exploit an arcade experience because that's kind of, you just want to have fun. But we feel really good about that penalty in particular. We did a lot of work on it over the course of the year. The feedback in the beta was, man, this penalty seems to be happening a lot, and I think it's a bug. But as we researched more, what we came across in the comments was a lot of people not really having a great understanding about the rules. So there actually wasn't any bugs that we could find in the penalty itself and the frequency of it. I think people were just surprised that they couldn't hang on to the ball on these plays. It's literally instant. Like you have to either hand it off or throw it, or you're going to get a penalty. And that's how we balance that new play type. So I think that's what it was. We did make one change to the UI in the beta. We were calling the penalty on the quarterback, the illegal man downfield on the quarterback. But when we ship, that penalty will be assessed to the lineman who caused the penalty. So you'll see the guy who was downfield. You want to go into replay, see which guy it was, see why you got the penalty. That should help a little bit. But there was no change to the logic outside of that.
Okay. Pass leading. I heard a lot of feedback on pass leading. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we did some tuning to improve that. I know, especially with some of the abilities with the extended pass lead, guys were getting some inaccurate passes or actually over leading. So we have identified some cases where the lead was a little bit too far out of reach of the receiver. We tuned a few of those angles to make it better for launch, and then there's a few more that we're going to continue to tune there after launch to get those more accurate. But it is in a much better place than it was in the beta.
Okay. A lot of conversation around Tom Brady these days. Tom Brady's conductor ability. I know Gibbs was talking about it. I know RG was talking about it. Obviously, they're Patriots fans. Would you like to talk about that? Love you, RG.
Yeah.
And Gibbs.
His conductor ability that he had in the beta was really popular. Turns out it was because there was a bug with it in the beta. Right. Yeah. So in the beta, Tom Brady's conductor ability was allowing him to use unlimited hot routes in pre-play rather than just what it's supposed to be, which is standard 2 times faster than the other quarterbacks. So we caught that, and that is fixed as well.
Okay.
But other than that, Tom Brady still is pretty dang fun to play with.
He's the GOAT. You know, I mean,
he popped in one of our threads on ratings the other day. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool.
My Twitter's been in shambles ever since because all the people interacting with that tweet. But it was cool that Tom Brady popped in there.
Yeah, it's really. I will say this: it's cool to see Tom Brady a lot more on social media because it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
He's got some good stuff out there.
He's earned that.
He has.
Back in the day, he would have never gone out.
Well, it's the job. We got to do it, and now it's like you can see Tom Brady the person, and it's like, hey, outside of everything you saw on Facebook Watch, if people.
Yeah, he's funny.
Yeah,
dude.
I saw that. That was actually pretty
He's
good.
kind of like Farles, but like better looking.
All right, moving on. We fixed an issue where the QB and ball carrier mode could give up, and the play wouldn't be blown dead.
Yeah, this one goes straight from Twitter, actually. There was just a few posts about this in the beta feedback, if I remember correctly, but Twitter was talking about this new exploit, this glitch that they found in the beta, and then I came to find out that dudes were just taking a dive with the give-up mechanic with the quarterback, and then he wouldn't be blown dead, but the defenders would think he was down, so he would just get up and continue the play. So that was a bug, and we got that fixed as well.
Cool.
So you won't be able to use that anymore, although when I was trying it, it actually wasn't really benefiting me much. It was really hard to still be good, but we fixed it nonetheless because that's a rules bug, and we feel pretty strongly about making the rules authentic.
Cool. Stiff arm. I know some people say it felt a little powerful.
Yep, stiff arm came on, bubbled up to the top of the beta feedback as being a little bit too powerful. We kind of had an inkling that was the case. There's a few things. The one that will be in for launch is there will be a stamina penalty associated with stiff arm, which was not in there in the beta. So if you're using stiff arm, especially if you're like spamming stiff arm, you're going to start draining stamina. And even if you do one successful stiff arm, there still will be a stamina cost for that, so that should help balance it. And then we do have some other tuning planned for an early title update with stiff arm that should make it a little bit more intuitive to use. So we are aware of that, but it's going to be a lot better for launch.
Okay. Cool. And then fumbles. I think I heard some feedback on fumbles.
Yep.
What do we do in that?
I want to cover that. So fumbles is really important. That was probably the 4th or 5th highest feedback item in our user voice. So we did nothing to fumbles on competitive game style and arcade game style. We did make a tuning change, a very significant tuning change to simulation only, and I want to explain why. So we decreased the fumble chance for scrambling quarterbacks on passing plays, quarterbacks on running plays, and for ball carrier special moves versus hit sticks by 50%. We cut that fumble chance in half on simulation only. The thinking behind that was on simulation, you can get injured. So if you put your quarterback at risk a lot by running him in simulation mode, he's likely to get hurt, which is an additional risk to the fumble chance. So it didn't have to be as high, whereas on competitive, there's no injuries typically when you're playing on competitive, especially an ultimate team. So putting your quarterback at risk it doesn't have the same impact it does in real life. That's why the fumble chance is much higher for that mode. So no changes in competitive or arcade. That change of 50% reduction will be for simulation only.
Cool. A lot of great feedback here. Is there anything else you want to share with the community before we head out to the next segment? Make it short, promise.
Yeah, I would just say
Not
again.
you, me.
What? Who?
I'm gonna keep the end short.
I'm gonna keep the end short.
Yeah,
but
sorry,
please
I'm going to
take
go
time.
really quick.
Yeah.
I just want to thank everyone for playing the beta and thank everyone who gave us feedback. It's always extremely valuable. Thank you, all you guys who are really excited about Madden 20 coming out. I know I certainly am, and we want to keep this momentum going. I think we all feel really good about what we're about to put out there and have you guys playing. So let's just keep it going, work together to keep the game rolling all year long.
Cool. I did have one question. It was a good community question because, like last year, we did a lot of updates, right? So I think that we have a very good focus on how we're going to do updates this year. Do you want to talk briefly on that, on how we're going to be doing updates this year?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
So the frequency of the title updates is going to be the same as it has been the last couple of years. We have those pre-scheduled, and a lot of the reason that a lot of those are pre-scheduled is for planned content or planned new features that are going to be coming out post-launch, and it also gives us a window to fix issues when they come up. But we are going to be far more conservative in what we go after in fixing this year because last year we got pretty aggressive in what we went after, and then we ended up causing some knock-ons, and then we had to go back and fix it again. So it didn't help anyone, and the game got a little messy at certain points. So we want to avoid that. Moving forward, we want to make sure that we're being very cognizant of what we're fixing, and the feedback from the community is really important. We will be using some of our partners in the community to reach out and ask about certain things that bubble up. You know, there's always topics and heated discussion. So we want to use our community to figure out what is most important and needs to be adjusted and not adjusted. And we count on you guys to let us know that.
Yeah, no, that's great feedback. Thanks for that context. I think it's critical. You know, I think people need to understand that these things have to be scheduled in advance. That's just how kind of software planning goes, working with our first parties to kind of get you guys those updates. But again, looking at it from with a more critical eye based off of lessons that we learned from last year. So really excited for Madden 20. Clint, thanks so much for coming on board.
Yeah.
It is always a pleasure. I'll swing by your desk later on, chat some more about Madden 20.
August 2nd, right around the corner.
Just keep them out there because you've only got 3 minutes max.
Dang it, only 3
All right,
minutes.
let's go,
Okay.
do it.
All right, so guys, quick heads up. A lot of people are wondering, Madden Daily drops, it's not daily, what's going on? So to let you guys know, tomorrow, Gridiron Notes, everything that we talked about here on the stream, we're gonna go ahead and have this written up on Gridiron Notes. It will be published tomorrow on 5 p.m. Eastern. Gridiron Notes is something that myself and the community team will be writing. We'll be putting those out. You'll see a lot more Gridiron Notes special editions next week. What you're going to see on the 22nd is we have a MUT live stream happening on the 22nd, which is Monday. It's going to start at 7 p.m. Eastern, and it's going to end around 9 p.m. Eastern. There's a lot to cover, so we're kind of just going to give ourselves 2 hours. It may even be longer than that, but we'll also be putting out a special Gridiron Notes there to talk about we're going to talk about X Factors and Superstar abilities, the requirements needed for a Madden Ultimate Team. So put together a pretty good article with the help of Jake and RG. A lot of love, a lot of time was spent on doing that. Not just that, but also MUT ratings will be revealed early next week. We'll talk about that. We'll give you guys some context there. On the 23rd, there'll be Gridiron Notes going out about Madden 20 achievements for those people that are achievement hunters out there that want to know, hey, how can I go ahead and get Xbox, PS4, PC Origin achievements? On the 24th, we're looking, and I'm working with right now to get the reward structure in some Gridiron Notes talking about the modes that most people use, which are MUT drafts, salary cap, head-to-head seasons, also solo battles. There have been some changes there. We want to get you guys that information. We're looking, I believe, I need to double check. I think the 25th, July 25th, EA Access will start for Xbox and PS4. There's a lot of dates floating out there. Let you guys know we have planned dates, but it's really contingent on first party to go ahead and give the thumbs up and move on there. So again, when things are live in certain places, we'll make sure to communicate that out to you guys. The 25th, I believe we might have a stream. I'm not really sure, or the 26th. So kind of stay tuned for that. 22nd, 25th, 26th. We'll be back to our regular schedule on 7:30, which I believe is what is 7?
3 days early access.
Yeah, but what is that, Tuesday, Monday? So that's Tuesday. So 7:30, July 30th on Tuesday, we'll be back. That's 3 days early before Madden launches. So if you guys get the Ultimate Superstar or the Superstar Edition, you'll be able to play the game 3 days early. And then not just that, worldwide launch on August the 2nd. A lot of stuff coming down that period of time. So guys, you want to say something?
No. 1 minute.
1 minute? Okay.
You're done.
I feel like I got to add something.
No, you don't.
Okay, he's just telling me
Quick
to
close,
shut up.
quick
All right,
close.
guys, stay tuned. Gridiron Notes tomorrow, but most importantly, Monday, MUT live stream. Be there. A lot of great information. We'll walk through Madden Ultimate Team.
Somebody's asked about MCS news. There is a planned announcement around 726.
Okay.
Looking like what it might be for Devo.
Okay, so so MCS announcements probably they're saying 726. Stay tuned.
Roughly.
Roughly
726-ish.
726
We didn't
ish.
forget about it.
We didn't forget about it. There's just a lot going on, a lot to kind of put together and get that information out to you guys. We want to do it right. I think that's the key thing. Anything else that you guys know off the top of your head that we need to talk about? No? All right, guys. We will see you back on Monday. This is Kralo, Agent K, Clint, the crew. We're heading out.